Oh, hello. I'm Robert. Welcome to the garden. It's the last week of April. Let's do a garden tour. The end of April is a little transition time now. In Southern California, we can grow plants all year long. So I have a lot of plants from the winter which are dying back. I need to let them die back to recharge. I'll get through that. But it'll look a little messy, but it's also a great time because there's a lot of spring plants in bloom. You can see the blue daisies, the roses, apples on the tree. Behind me you can see the spiky Dracaena Draco and the yellow cassia tree behind that. Even the cactus are in bloom. In the garden I have it divided up by the plants that grow by season, their requirements. I have a cactus and succulent area. I have flowers, I have fruit trees and vegetables. So here in the area by the front door, I have plants growing that are left over from winter. These blue pansies, the orange ones. These alyssum will grow all year long. And this blue daisy back here. These are all plants that grow in the winter. They don't do so well when it starts getting really warm out here. But you'll see also that I have succulents mixed in, this kiwi aeonium, which is nice and green right now. This gets a lot of color when it's stressed by the cold, but when it's warmer out, it just stays green like this. This is a winter growing plant. But I also have other plants, this feverfew, the rose, and some other things that are just starting to come up. This pink yarrow back here. And these are plants that are growing in the summer, or at least in the spring. So here you'll see more of the cactus and succulents. This section of the garden was a little tricky. Originally I had planned this to be more tropical, more filled with lush plants, but watering requirements, the soil, I have things running under the ground here, electric and water lines that I can't dig into too much, so a lot of this became a succulent area. The exception is, if you look back here, you'll see an area with mulch. This area gets more water. These are not cactus and succulent. I also have leftover bulbs down here that sprung up. These are dying back. I have to let these die back to recharge the bulb under the ground. There's a big messy area in the front. This looks horrible right now. But in a few more weeks, these will die back enough that I can get rid of them, and you can see the plants that are buried underneath. So for cactus and succulents, one thing that helps is having a mound that you can plant on. Water will drain away faster. This area specifically will collect water when it rains, and so having these elevated a little bit helps. It also protects, you'll see this agave back here. This agave does not like water, but the water that comes in here doesn't reach over there, and it kind of protects the other plants. I have aloes. These are still in bloom. And you can see some plants look the same, but they're actually very different. This is an agave here, the spiky one, and this is a dazzlerian. They look very similar, but they're totally different plants. Fortunately, they have the same requirements as far as light, water, fertilizer, so it's nice to have them close to each other. It's easier when watering, fertilizing, maintaining the plants. As we go back further, I have this weeping Santa Rosa plum, and then I have some flowers in here. This section gets a lot more water. These plants are grouped by their requirements as well. The Santa Rosa plum with the white flowers in bloom, we saw it from the view looking towards the street. Now you're at the sidewalk looking back. You can see this pineapple guava or fioja, which I'm going to eventually train into a hedge, but right now I'm just kind of letting them grow. They're in bloom right now, which looks really nice. These flowers are beautiful. They do make a fruit. It's not the best tasting fruit, but it's a fruit. And then I have succulents in the front as well. So as we go through the garden, you can look at the ground and see what the ground covering is. That'll kind of give an idea of the watering requirements. In this area and behind me, you'll see is beige gravel.
This lets me know that this is low water. Whereas if we come to the other side of the sidewalk here, you'll see mulch. This gets a little bit more water. I have another mulch that I use, which is even more water, and as you look down, you can see a lot of the spring flowers in bloom. Right now, this red bud tree is covered with these red leaves. As the season goes on, these will start to turn green, and then eventually they'll fall off for the winter. So as we look at the next area, I'll kind of explain that I just like growing plants. I'm not designing this for a landscape. I like growing the plants. I grow plants in different areas, and I just try planting them and see what they look like. As you learn how to grow different plants, you can grow a lot of related plants. And to compensate for that, I put on sometimes what I call garden shows, where I have a lot of things in bloom at the same time. So you can see all these pink Mexican primrose behind me. I have this dark colored crepe myrtle, some blue salvia, the iceberg rose, and even this pear tree by the street is starting to bloom at the same time. As I move further down, you can see a lot more plants in bloom are starting to come into bloom. This is a champaca tree. This one smells wonderful when this blooms, and this blooms most of the year. Maybe for 2 months out of the year, now being one of them. I'm not going to find blooms on this, but it's covered in new growth, and it's getting ready to bloom. I have this growing along the street. I have this jacaranda, which I think I put in 3 years ago. It hasn't bloomed yet, but hopefully it will. Purple flowers. And then this carrotwood tree behind me. The carrotwood tree, I'll just take a minute to talk about that. That grew on its own in a pot that I had. I kept cutting it back and cutting it back, but it kept growing. Eventually it grew multiple trunks. You'll see 3 main trunks coming up. I planted it in that area because it wants to grow. I couldn't kill it easily, and we get wind coming from that direction, so that's eventually going to help block some of that wind from coming through the garden. As I look down now, I see pink salvia, some foxglove, the yellow flowers. We have this red coprosma, which this is a low water plant. This is a high water plant. But as I start moving this way, I'm watering less. Behind it, we have this leucadendron, a protea flower that's in bloom right now. I really like this plant. But this plant is on its own because I cannot fertilize this. It's very sensitive to phosphorus fertilizer. Looking at the other side of the sidewalk, you can see how this is broken up into different areas. As an example, I have these cactus and succulents down here, a lot of succulents. Aloe finishing up its bloom. Behind this gravel you see mulch. This mulch here is probably 6 inches deep. I put this in to cover the grass, to kill the grass. And as I slowly started bringing the other plants back, I leave this in. All these orange plants are nasturtium that are growing from seed. I didn't plant these. And as I can see here, we have some small avocados falling off the avocado tree. They're soft already. Now these orange plants that you'll see, the nasturtium and these California poppies back here, these grew on their own. I planted nasturtium maybe 7 years ago as a trap to get aphids from the vegetable garden. I moved some up into the front yard, and they just reseed themselves and go crazy. Equally, these California poppies, the orange ones here, maybe I planted a few several years ago. They just reseed themselves and come back every year. Now starting here, I have this Plectranthus tomentosa, also called a Vicks plant, because this is what they use to make Vicks Vapor Rub. It smells exactly like it. This Waimuchil tree, which produces food. And as we go through, you'll see further back, I have more food producing plants. and a pathway through the middle of the garden. So let's go back and start and walk through the middle of the garden, and we'll point out those plants. So now we're in the middle of the front yard. I have a pathway going through the middle, and this is where I have more food production. So right in front of me I have this strawberry guava, which I can see little buds on. It's not in bloom yet, but this will be in bloom in a few weeks. I have my apple tree and this banana behind me. There's a few bananas, even with some bananas on it growing. These started right before the winter, so I didn't get too many. As soon as it got too cold, it just stopped producing the bananas. But those are going to start growing again in a couple weeks, and I'll have them in about a month. This giant guava tree behind me, this is an Asian white guava, Vietnamese variety, I think. This produces tons of fruit from November through maybe February or March. We're constantly pulling fruit off this tree. Really large, really tasty. As we look down towards the ground, you'll see I have more ground cover. These aren't edible. I have some aeonium. I have this geranium, this coleus, and then behind it this variegated plectranthus. On this side we have the moringa tree that's coming back, also called a drumstick tree. This loses all its leaves for the winter, and I cut it back pretty heavily because this one grows really fast. It was blocking this whole path. I couldn't walk through here just a couple months ago. But it's filling out nicely. I have this bay bush, laurel. This is where you get bay leaves from. Here I have an avocado. Sorry. Here I have an apricot tree. And then two varieties of fig planted right here. Behind me I have pomegranate bush and orange. And then a lot of rosemary over here. And a mango tree popping up. Alright, I think we're good.